Morning? No, afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for having us here. We're really happy to be here after I think like three different things happened to us, like no stairs for our plane. We missed the bus. Then the next bus was broken at the Terminal 5. But you are enjoying exactly what the people during the World War II or before, in 1939 till 45, were enjoying, in quotes, with the radio signals, with the short waves. So delays, not receiving, I missed. So now it's what's happened to you. Okay. Oops, wait a minute. Okay.
Amerika volá Československo. Tady Voskovec a tady Werich.
So thank you again for the invitation. My name is Martin. Filip.
My name is Filip.
Filip will be second one, and he will talk more. He likes to talk more than me. So I would like to present you the first part of our presentation and of our paper, which is also based on our long-term research, which was also was presented on ARSC and also on YAZA conferences in past years. Our paper concerns Second World War radio recordings of Voskovec and Werich, the guys you heard in audio before. And that's the first two guys on the left. And who were they? They were the famous Czech avant-garde actors, comic duo. They presented themselves in 30s as clowns with clown faces, and they played, let's say, the absurd theater in 30s. In 30s, and because of economic crisis and then the rise of far-right movements in Central Europe, they moved and turned to political humor, especially against Nazis and fascism. Guy on the right is Jaroslav Ježek, the third one. They called together three policemen. I'm right?
Yeah, three policemen.
Yeah. And he was a musician and he was a composer and pianist for them. His work also consisted of classical piano and concertate compositions under the influence of Stravinsky and Schoenberg as well. However, he became really famous in Czechoslovakia and in Central Europe because of his popular jazz compositions and because of his songs for Voskovec and Werich, for their theater plays and also for their movies in 30s. His compositions were also recorded for Ultrafon label, and let's say we have around 100 compositions recorded for Czech Ultrafon label in 30s. They're together, and also their partners organized so-called liberated theater, or sometimes also called Prague Free Theater. So it's a symbolic name for, let's say, for freedom theater in Central European context in 30s. And maybe for a little bit illustration of their work and anti-fascist satire from the documentary of Herbert Klein's
Crisis.
Document called Crisis.
Comedians of Czechoslovakia were Voskovec and Werich of the theater liberated in Prague. Voskovec and Werich had their own map of Europe.
To je to? Ulčička. To ne. Tady toto je. A to je Miss Europe. Evropa, správně. Evropa. Co je toto? To je hlava od... ji tam nasadili vši tam nasadili odsaď asi hnědý košile. No to je tedy prosím Španělsko. Teďka proč ušili tady tu košili zde in Berlin, aby ta francouzská bluza a ruská sukně v tom zmizela. Docela správně, radši nejedí, jen aby košile mohla být. Může ta ruská sukně a ta francouzská bluza zmizet? Nemůže. A proč nemůže zmizet ta French blouse a Russian skirt? Protože je tady špendlík, neboli Sicherheitsnadle, neboli safety pin, made in Prague. Teď budu zkoušet já vás. Bible. Kdo to byl?
Yeah.
It's the only one and the oldest really long screen or view into their liberated theater. I mean, captured by the camera, 1938.
So their theater was also a reason they had to escape from Europe at the beginning of 1939 to United States. They tried to continue with the theater plays in America. They played for Czech Americans there, for Bohemians, and later they tried to go through with their with translations of their plays, but it little failed this try, and they tried to break into Hollywood. They again failed. They made a contract with Orson Welles, but there were just problems with contract and with let's say with environment behind. So they have to move to another activities, and most of time in America until the end of Second World War, they work in wartime radio, in wartime broadcasting, at the beginning for BBC and then for Office of War Information. That will be Filip's part, but I will follow just some information about sources and materials which we are dealing with. Yeah, thank you. There are two main categories of resources: handwritten or the programs, let's say, texts, scripts, and then on the second side, recordings.
Then we came.
Yeah, you can play it.
Okay.
Then we came back to New York and made Czech records for the BBC. After that, we worked for the WWII.
Beaming your broadcast to Czechoslovakia, I suppose.
Yes, yes. We have made more than 900 broadcasts shortwave.
Again, the actors fight the war.
Well, we do our best.
But how did you get into the trenches? What gave Margaret Webster the idea of using you?
So you see that at the beginning of our research there was just a mess about numbers, about amount of programs, scripts and recordings. And it was especially in memoirs of Voskovec and Werich that they made 2,000 of radio programs. But as we guess that there are original scripts, as you will see in next slides, that maybe they mention it because of they broadcast repeatedly. So 2,000, it's maybe maybe the 500 original scripts are 1/4 of whole amount of this number. So you can follow. We have 3 main institutions of our sources of our historical material. The scripts are preserved in Museum of Czech Literature. and it's from legacy of Jan Werich, one of them. Original scripts are preserved there in several copies, few of them, and there are also just only small amount of lacquer discs. What's interesting of these lacquer discs here in Museum of Czech Literature, that they are like a preserved duplicates, more than in other collections. So we know from these collections that recordings were recorded in or duplicate in several editions. Then the second institution is Czech radio, very important for us. Here are just only 33 lacquer discs, but most of them, or every of them, all of them, are from BBC era, and they were brought by Czech exile government back in 1945. There are also another transcription to magnetic tapes. Maybe they were made in 70s and in 80s in communist period, and these transcriptions were also spread unofficially in communist era among private collectors. So that's also why they came to us from unofficial sources, from collectors.
But we can say about the collection of the Czech radio that it looks to us that there are two different sources. The first one was after the war. Werich came in 1945 back to Czechoslovakia, and the Czech radio asked him, can we borrow like 100 of your recordings? Yes, you can. They never returned. And the story is that maybe 3/4 they just broke them, destroyed them because they were fragile lacquer discs. So from that time, of course, that everybody forgot what happened. But I think like 15 years ago, the exile government, through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs collection, donated to the Czech radio these recordings, because these recordings are very familiar to one person in the second row from British Library, because these are the BBC broadcast recordings, and we will hear or we will see about them a little bit later. But it's also really interesting that in Czech radio are like a totally two different collections, but the same content.
Yeah, and the last, let's say, the collection, the biggest collection in these institutions is in our home institution in National Museum, Czech Museum Music, and there are over 100 lacquers, and they were donated by granddaughter of Jan Werich in 90s, and that was on the request that they has to be digitized, but as you will see, the transfer, the digitization was done really poor under low technical standards in 90s. And there has to be also said that all of these lacquers are glass-based, and in last decades they were very bad preserved. So a lot of them are broken, not delaminated, but broken. And there was also transfer in 70s, really good transfer from academic researcher and musicologist Josef Kotek. Yeah, so that's all from my side. It's yours.
Okay, I've got 5 minutes till the end. No, I'm kidding. You will hear a little bit story about what was happening in 1939. Because we promised that we will be talking a little bit about the case study, and it's a combination of the history, combination of preservation, combination of research, field research in a different collection. So now you will hear a little bit about WRUL, but before it was just a radio university under the Harvard University, supported by Rockefeller Foundation in 1935, 6, 7, and very important person later for also the Czechoslovaks, Walter Lemon, decided that with no adverts, with no government control, he will be the first who will send the signal, the short waves, that time, 1939, through across the Atlantic to Europe. Of course, that in 1939, the U.S. they were in the war, so they were very careful with the information broadcasted to Europe. What did non-existing exile government of Czechoslovakia at that time, but the formal consulate in New York and people in Chicago, they established or created Czechoslovak America as a 15 minutes broadcasting twice or 3 times a week in 1939. It was for free. Of course, that there were lots of donations, but Walter Lemon said it will be free. So from that time, we think that later Voskovec and Werich did for the Office of War Information a black quarter, černá čtvrthodinka, black quarter, black 15 minutes. Because from this time, 1939, they received the 15 minutes. What is very interesting is that what Martin mentioned, they tried to do a lot of things in the US, but it was very hard. The first thing what they did, they recorded a label for Decca. They recorded recordings for label Decca. They did entertainment for the Czech Americans, but also they asked the Czechoslovak America, could you please do for us like the scripts, 15 minutes, sketches, comic sketches like in a liberated theater, and we will broadcast it from Boston studios. It's still there, and here you will see the studios, Commonwealth Avenue 133. It's really like a nice brownstone mansion. So, oops, sorry. My fault. So from that time, they were in contact with former government. You can see it's August 1939, and they are asking them, okay, could you please come to New York, do the recordings? And all these things were hidden behind the pictures, the documents at the Foreign Efforts, the Ministry of Foreign Efforts, or secretly hidden in the memoirs of Voskovec and Werich. But we were going through step by step and found some of these news. BBC in 1940 decided that it will be really good if the government in London, or the BBC, the Czechoslovak program in London, will ask Voskovec and Werich the first minutes of the government of the BBC reports was, no, the government disagree with the using Voskovec and Werich through the broadcasting. The minute number 5, so it's like 2 weeks after that. Okay, we agreed. It's October 1940. Okay, we are now in February 1941, and there is the Czechoslovak government agreed, and the Ministry of Foreign Efforts, it's Jan Masaryk, the son of Tomáš Garrigue Masaryk, will discuss this with the Voskovets and Werich, because that time, this is London, and the Voskovets and Werich, that time they were in Cleveland finishing their English translated Czech play in theater. Okay, so here's the confirmation and agree. So what happens that the department of the BBC in New York asked them directly week after that, okay, we need something. We will give you the specification because in London we need to play, and we will give you the money. Content, technicals, payment. It's very important because it's a second work for the radio broadcasting, now the BBC, and it was very important for them to survive in the United States because they received the money. Okay, here just really quick, in March 41 they did the first script. The first script was approved. The exile government or the Czechoslovak government in London agreed. So from that time, it was a communication between or through the cablegrams from London to New York, and the letters or cablegrams from New York to somewhere where the Voskovets and Werich were located. And here is, for example, the information. Okay, we did for you the first session or first 5 recordings recorded in Cleveland studio. Yes, of course, that you can say, no, that's the RCA building, Radio City. No. When you look closer, they just used their own label, but here is Cleveland. So we found them in the collection of Voskovets in Boston. When we go forward, here you will see how that happens with the original recording. So you got the original recording recorded in many copies. Why? Because that time they have to send to New York, from New York by airmail to London. London use or reuse the recording on their own recording or the disc, lacquer disc, and broadcast it. You will see the differences soon. Okay, the first transfer, let's say first preservation, was in 1970 by
Deska s názvem Šťastný nový rok nemá datum, byla snad natočena v prosinci 42.
He said, December 1942.
Hodně zdraví, jak si myslí. Tak, to vlastně, že si tak přejeme. Nový rok přece. Ovšem, nový rok tak šťastný a veselý. My už jsme si popřáli, ale posluchači čekají na nějaký přání. Trochu slušnosti, člověče, myslete se na průh. Prosím vás, co
that was a part of the delamination. They're losing the pieces. So, yes, you can hear the crack, you can hear the clicks. So, but it was preserved 1970. In 1991, when the same collection was donated from the family of Werich to the museum, they tried. Nope, we are not able to do it because the problems, the cracks, and the missing pieces. So that's something what is, of course, you can do it, but it will still be a lot of work. So what we tried now, last year, we bought a machine from Paris called Saphir. It's not remastered, so the post-production it's not done. But when you listen carefully, you will hear very sharp voice.
hodně zdraví, jak si myslí. Tak.
No cracks, no clicks, because the laser, the optical beam, is reading thousands of pictures and then reconstructing. So that was the first example of how we're trying to re-preserve already preserved. The problem is that we are a lot of years or decades after the best preservation, but we're trying to do the best, and then in combination of the 1970, 1999, and 2024, maybe. What is really interesting for you, that's something what we already presented at Ars Coriaza, is a step-by-step with the recording or with the script, with the content, with the what's the strip? Oh, that's not a number script. Okay, Europe is Guilty, August 1942. Okay, so we found the script, and then we found also the recording. What happened that they recorded and sent to London. Remember the date. Now we are in the BBC studios, the Czechoslovak program. Let's go, and now Voskovec and Verich will sing you a little song about two journalists, Reds, and we found from BBC collection the recording, not the original, it's a copy or duplicate, but as you can see, it's October 31st. So almost 2 months after that. So when you compare, you got 3 dates. You got August 6th, you got what's that? That's September 13, and then you got October 31st. 2 months took to broadcast it from London on the shortwaves to the Czechoslovakia, a program, let's say a comic program by Voskovec and Verich. So during the year 42, they decided we need to be much more actual, not to react on something and in 2 months, oh yeah, it will be still actual. No. So that's why they were hired by the Office of War Information. But that's another story. Okay, well, are we running out of time or not? Where's the boss? We got a time?
You are on top of the time.
Okay, good. But still we can delay because, you know, the radio broadcasting, the short waves, we can change the signal, and in the afternoon you will have a finish. Okay, so just an example of the cablegrams. So they receive the cablegrams. So it's like an order. What they were ordering from the London. 6 4.5-minute pieces. We will pay. We need content. So stop. Okay, the content will be about the students, Czech students, so the International Day. So here's the example of a program, November 20, 41, the Voskovec and Verich, and here is a student songs. It's really interesting because it happened in 42. Am I right? 42 or 41? 42. But we found this recording in 1945, interview by the Jane Cowell on WOR. So,
hey, Mr. Haach, I know you're trying. You'll never have a moment's rest. From your headaches you'll be flying at prescription counters dying. And as a corpse, you'll look your best. Hey, Mr. Haach, we are returning. You haven't heard from students yet. Though our school books you are burning, safe in the underground we are learning how to make the German vermin sweat. You close the schools to education. Students will see that you repaid. Met students in anticipation wait for fresh corpses for their trade. Hey, our machine guns long have waited. Death to the traitors we decree. With the rest exterminated, schools and college liberated, we'll study in a land that's free.
Thank you, George Voskovets and Jan Verek.
So that was, I think that we found only like 3 different recordings in English or in English language. So most of them, I mean all of them, were recorded in the Czech language and broadcasted later, and the later means this. Oh yeah, it's here. We seen the ghost. There were like last 5 slides were empty. So we were thinking like, okay, what we will do? Okay, now they are here. So the differences between the BBC and OWI was that BBC was a comic humor, a satire, like a 5-minute sketches. The Office of War Information was a little bit more like war telegraphs, like moderators of the newspapers and SWOT analysis by the Czechoslovak government or US government because the 15 minutes. So what we found, it's a confirmation like, okay, yeah, we will be doing a BBC for $50 per one recordings, but on the other side, oh yeah, they will hire us for $4,000 per year. So that's something what is really interesting to us to understand. Also, what is really good for us to know that the American newspapers were the interest of the American newspapers were also focused on the Voskovets and Verich. The Voskovets was later known as a really good theater actor and a TV serial actor, so because he went back. But that time there were just 2 no ones. But as Martin mentioned, the Orson Welles. In Hollywood, they knew about them that they were Czechoslovakian, Laurer and Hardy. So what they want in 1941, oh, you will be the followers, or maybe you will do the scripts for Laurer and Hardy. But that time, the Laurer and Hardy were almost, done. I mean, finished in positive way. This will be the end. It's just an example what we are thinking that will happen. Again, the original recording, it's 1942. Here,
pozvánka k sabotáži.
Invitation to sabotage.
Přetočen, protože deska byla těžce poškozena.
And what we can only hear is the green one. The red one disappeared. In 1999, nobody tried because they just wrote, oh, it's broken. But what we are expecting in 2024 is that we will have the full cover of the recording. The problem is that this 5 minutes takes 100 hours of the sound engineering work because putting together the correct lines. Okay, we are done.
Tento program byl součástí našeho krátkovlnného vysílání do Československa. This program has been part of our Czechoslovak shortwave service.
Thank you very much for your attention, and here is a little bit gift for GHT collection and the university collection. Thank you very much for your.
Thank you.